Why does a creature spend 17 years buried in total darkness, only climb a fence post, split its own body open, and leave behind a perfect yet hollow ghost of itself? And why have we been taught to sweep that ghost away like it was nothing? Look closely at the next dead shell you find clinging to your fence, your tree bark, the side of your shed. It is not debris, it is a receipt. And what it is, a receipt for, is one of the longest, strangest, most patient lives on this planet. The ancient Greeks called them tedics and believed they were nearly divine. Aristotle wrote about their underground years in his Historia Animalium around 350 BCE, noting with quiet astonishment that the creatures seemed to vanish into the earth for whole human generations. The Chinese, more than 3,000 years ago, carved jade replicas of cicada shells and placed them on the tongues of the dead. They believed the husk symbolized resurrection, a body left behind, a spirit moving on. In the American South, indigenous Cherokee and Onondaga oral traditions describe the cicada's emergence as a sacred timekeeper, a calendar older than any calendar. European settlers, arriving in the 1600s, mistook the great broods for a biblical plague of locusts. They wrote panic letters home. Every culture that has lived near these insects has noticed the same thing. The shells stay, the bodies leave. And something about that pattern unsettled them enough to write it down, century after century. We sweep them off the fence and call it tidying. For nearly 200 years, entomologists quietly recorded something that never quite made it into popular science. They documented cicadas, particularly the cicada species of eastern North America, living underground not for months, not for a year, but for 13 and 17 years. Prime numbers, specifically prime numbers. The data was published, the papers were peer-reviewed, and almost no one outside the field of insect ecology heard about it, because cicadas were classified in the public mind as noisy summer pests. So the truth sat there, in journals like the Annual Review of Entomology, waiting. What was the truth? That the empty shell on your fence post is the surface ending of a life that may have begun before your child was born. Here's what is humbling. Even now, in the 2020s, evolutionary biologists do not fully understand why these cicadas chose prime numbers. The leading hypothesis, developed in part by mathematical biologist Glenn Webb and others working in population modeling, is that prime number life cycles make it nearly impossible for predators with shorter cycles to synchronize with them. A predator that peaks every 2, 3, or 4 years simply cannot lock on to a 13-year prey. But that is a hypothesis, not a closed case. The cicadas are doing arithmetic we did not teach them, for reasons we are still piecing together, and the husks they leave behind are the only physical evidence most of us will ever touch on a calculation that took millions of years to refine. Let us peel this back, layer by layer, the way you might lift the corner of a very old document. The first layer is the shell itself. What you find on your fence post is called an exuvia, the molted exoskeleton of a final stage nymph. Look at it under a magnifying glass and you will see something most people never notice. A clean vertical split along the back, running from the head down between the shoulders. That split is not random. It is the cicada's exit door, and it opens along a line of weakened cuticle the insect's body has been preparing for weeks. The split is so precise, it almost looks surgical. But here is what they missed for a long time. The shell is not just a discarded husk. Inside, before molting, the cicada lined its own breathing tubes, the tracheae that ran through its body, with chitin. When it emerges, it pulls those linings out through its mouth and abdomen, leaving behind, inside the exuvia, perfectly preserved silvery threads. If you find a fresh shell and look down into its hollow chest, you can sometimes see them, the ghost of a respiratory system, a creature that exhaled its own skeleton. The next layer is even stranger. Those 17 years underground are not a passive hibernation. The nymph is awake. It is feeding. It attaches its straw-like mouthparts to the xylem of tree roots, the woody tubes carrying water and dilute minerals upward from the soil, and it drinks. Xylem is so nutritionally thin that biologists once thought no animal could survive on it long term. The cicada survives on it for almost 2 decades. To do this, it carries inside its body 2 ancient bacterial partners, Hodgkinia and Solsia microbes, so genomically reduced they can barely be called organisms anymore. They synthesize the amino acids the cicada cannot get from sap. Without those bacteria, the cicada starves. Without the cicada, the bacteria have no home. They have been bonded for over 200 million years. And then in 28, a research team led by John Cooley at the University of Connecticut documented something that genuinely shifted the field. They confirmed that some cicada broods are capable of accelerating or delaying their emergence by exactly 4 years, jumping from a 17-year cycle to a 13-year cycle, or vice versa. The insects are not just keeping time. They are, in some way we do not yet understand, adjusting time. Possibly in response to climate, possibly in response to tree health, possibly in response to signals we have not yet identified. There is another layer beneath that one. Below ground, the nymphum counts years, not days, not seasons, years. Researchers, including Richard Carbon at UC Davis, demonstrated experimentally that the cicadas track annual cycles by sensing the fluid changes in the tree roots they drink from, the surge of sap each spring, the slowing each autumn. Cut a 17-year cicada off from those signals, and it loses its place in time. The fence post shell, then, is the surface marker of an organism that learned to read the heartbeat of a tree. What we should have asked much earlier is what the shells do after the cicada is gone. And here the picture widens further. The exuvia are made of chitin and protein, and when rain breaks them down, they return nitrogen, concentrated, bioavailable nitrogen, directly to the soil at the base of the very trees that fed the nymph for 17 years. Forest ecologists, including Louis Yang at UC Davis, have measured significant pulses of soil nitrogen in the months following a major emergence. The trees that nurse the cicadas underground are, quite literally, fertilized by their shells above ground. It is a closed loop 17 years wide. And one more layer. The adult cicadas, the ones that flew off and left those husks, live only 4 to 6 weeks in the open air. Their entire purpose in the sunlight is to sing, mate, and lay eggs in the twigs of trees. The males produce sound using organs called tymbals, ribbed membranes on their abdomens that buckle and unbuckle up to 480 times per second. The chorus of a full brood can exceed 100 decibels louder than a motorcycle, measured from a few feet away. It is the loudest sound any insect on Earth produces. And it is the soundtrack to the shortest, brightest fraction of a life that was almost entirely lived in silence underground. I'll be honest, this one shook me. I had to sit with it for days, because the math does something to you once you let it. Somewhere, right now, there is a child being born in a hospital. And in the soil beneath the tree near that hospital, there is a cicada nymph, the size of a grain of rice, beginning a life that will end the year that child graduates from high school. The two of them will share the same season of arrival, separated only by dirt. The child will probably never know. And when the cicada finally climbs a fence post, splits open, and flies into the air for one brief month of song, that child, now 17, may walk past the empty shell and brush it to the ground without looking. I had done that for most of my life. I had no idea what I was holding. So I'll leave the original question open, the way the Greeks left it open, the way the J. Carvers left it open. Why does a creature live for 17 years in darkness, to sing for 1 month in light? Is it strategy? Is it accident? Is it something stranger, a kind of patience evolution stumbled into and never let go of? I don't have the final answer. Neither does science, not yet. But the next time you walk past your fence post, leave the shell there. Let the rain take it back into the soil. Let the nitrogen return to the tree. Let the receipt finish doing its quiet, 17-year work. I want to hear your theory. Drop it below. The strangest one gets pinned. Some of you have lived near a brood emergence. Some of you remember the sound. Tell me what you remember the sound. Tell me what you remember. Tell me what you swept away before you knew. Because the next question we'll ask is even older. And the answer was hiding in your grandmother's garden the whole time.